Okay. What would you like the court to know?
Yes. Good morning, everybody. Just like to thank the courts for giving me this opportunity to make a statement.
This case starts with a line that already sounds impossible. A mother punched through her car window, in front of her own children, while sitting in a Starbucks drive-thru. And now, years later, everyone is in front of Judge Simpson asking the same brutal question. What does justice actually look like here? Is it jail time? Is it probation? Is it punishment, accountability, remorse? Or something that forces the defendant to truly understand the damage she caused? Because this is not just about one punch. It is about fear, humiliation, two children watching their mother get attacked, and a courtroom trying to measure emotional trauma against legal sentencing rules. Judge Simpson is not just hearing facts today. He is weighing pain, restraint, race, parenting, remorse, and whether one violent moment should lead to a jail cell. And trust me, the victim is not holding back.
This incident happened to me over almost 3.5 years ago, and I've been patiently waiting and glad it's coming to an end. When this incident happened, I'm not going to water it down. Miss Fimby and her counterpart decided to pull up behind me and my two young daughters in Starbucks drive-through line and approach my car, yelling threatening words at me. And as I ignored it, Miss Fimby decided to get out of her car and run up to my window as I'm trying to order, and thought it was okay to punch me in my face through my window car. Um, or my car window, I'm sorry. And at that moment, I thought I was dreaming. And as I put my car in park and wanting to get out my car, my daughters, both of my daughters were in the car, and they begged me with frightening tears not to get out the car. And I didn't. At that point, I don't know if my daughters maybe saved my life. But I felt very violated, humiliated after being punched in my face in front of my daughters. And my ego was surely broken and bruised. And in that moment, I struggled, and I still struggle with what I did versus what I really wanted to do. But I keep telling myself I did the right thing. Although there was no financial impact effect upon my family, it has definitely left an emotional impact upon us. For me, it has tormented me with the thoughts of wanting to obtain a CPL license. Never have I ever felt a need to carry or purchase a firearm.
That line changes the entire emotional weight of this case. Karma is not just saying she got punched. She is saying this moment altered how safe she feels in the world. Before this, she says she never felt the need to carry or purchase a firearm. After this, she is emotionally struggling with whether she now needs a CPL license just to feel protected. That is the kind of impact courts have to listen to carefully, because the visible injury may fade, but the fear stays. This is where the case becomes bigger than a drive-through confrontation. It becomes about how one reckless act can rewrite someone's daily sense of safety. And notice the detail. Her daughters were there. They did not just hear about it later. They witnessed it. So when Karma asks for consequences, she is not asking because she is angry for sport. She is asking because the damage walked out of that Starbucks with her family.
But since this incident, I am slowly going through an emotional process of obtaining a CPL. But I continuously ride this roller coaster on if I should or not. My daughters who witnessed this crime was frightened, traumatized, and distraught. And my one daughter's whose idea was it to go to Starbucks that day blames herself for what happened. Prior to this crime, a place of business we visited so frequently, we have not been able to go back to this place since the incident. What Miss Femi did was an unprovoked act of violence, and there was little to no actions of remorse based on her actions. For example, Miss Femi assaulted me. She and her counterpart decided to get back in their car and run away from the scene. After I pressed charges, Ms. Fimby never showed up to her preliminary hearing, which was issued a bench warrant. Now it's been over 3.5 years, and Ms. Fimby's bench warrant caught up with her, and she did not want to take an offer and wanted to go to trial. It goes to trial, and I show up to testify, but now, Ms. Fimby, please, no contest. Where is the remorse? Your Honor, what needs to be identified as an acceptable and responsible path to deter such behavior. And I'm asking for some sort of jail time to be sentenced, whether it's 2 months, 1 week, or even 3 days, with the continuum of what probation is asking for, along with some sort of therapy. A lesson just needs to be learned here. And Miss Fenby, what I feel, needs to be punched in her face. And maybe not as recklessly, physically, and barbarically as she punched me in my face in front of my two daughters. That was, again, not provoked. She needs something to learn her lesson. Thank you.
Miss, what do you think jail time would serve in this case?
Now Judge Simpson steps in with the key sentencing question. What would jail time actually serve? That is not him dismissing Karma's pain. That is the court separating emotional justice from legal purpose. Jail can punish, yes, but the judge has to ask whether it rehabilitates, deters, protects the public, or simply satisfies the feeling that something bad deserves something bad in return. And this is where courtroom reality gets uncomfortable. Victims often want the court to validate the pain with a strong consequence. Judges, however, have to translate that pain into lawful sentencing terms. Is 2 weeks enough? Is 2 months too much? Is probation too light? And here is the question for viewers. When someone commits an unprovoked assault in front of children, should jail be automatic, or should the judge still weigh remorse, history, and future risk? That tension is about to define this entire hearing.
I'm sorry, were you talking to me?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I just feel like when the thing happened, she wasn't even arrested. When it happened, she was let go. I feel 2 weeks to 2 months, something. That's what I feel.
Yeah, but how do you see anything being gained from that?
Well, I think it gives a person the time to think about their actions. I think she has not been able to given a time to think about her actions. So to really critically think about what her behavior was.
Okay. Okay. Counsel, anything you want to say before I impose sentence?
I would just state that I understand where Ms. Stewart is coming from in terms of how this impacted her. Ms. Fenby has thought about her actions. This court case has been going on for at least a little while, but there has, as stated, been about 3.5 years since the event occurred. Ms. Fenby has taken time to consider that, especially given her involvement with the court. She has not had any other criminal history outside of this case. She is employed and she has been compliant with all court orders. I believe that probation's recommendation will allow her to be under court supervision and continue considering her actions and how those impacted others. I think that the recommendation from probation is reflective of the stability that Ms. Fenby has in her life, and also balances her having to serve some sort of punishment, as it be, through probation, which would be appropriate given, like I said, the offense and her lack of criminal history in this matter.
The defense is making the classic mitigation argument. Yes, something happened. Yes, it was wrong. But this defendant has no other criminal history, is employed, and probation can still function as punishment. That matters legally. Probation is not nothing. It can include supervision, testing, classes, fees, restrictions, and the constant threat that one violation could bring jail back onto the table. But emotionally, that is where the victim may hear something very different. To her, probation may sound like the system saying, "You got attacked, your kids were traumatized, and the consequence is paperwork." That gap between legal punishment and emotional punishment is one of the hardest parts of sentencing. The defense wants the court to see stability. Karma wants the court to see the wound. And Judge Simpson has to decide which side better predicts what justice requires.
Fenby, anything you'd like to tell the court before I impose sentence?
No, Your Honor, other than that, I am very sorry and very remorseful in this case, and I apologize for taking the court's time. Thank you.
No, that's what I'm here for. Can I ask why you did this?
Because Sorry, I feel very panicked. I felt that when the car was put in reverse, I interpreted that as being put in reverse to hit my partner that was outside of the car. And I didn't know what to do to defuse the situation. I was very scared. So I did do what I did, but I've never done anything like that in my life, and it wasn't intended to hurt. It was just intended to stop the situation, although now I realize it was not the right thing to do.
Yeah, but the car wasn't moving when you took the swing, was it?
The reverse lights were on, and I panicked.
But was it moving?
No, I thought it was going in reverse, though. It was very close to us, and he was between the two cars.
Ma'am, in the time that all of that happened, had that been Miss Stewart's objective, she could have gone into reverse and caused great damage, right?
Yes, I thought that's what was happening. I thought that's what was gonna.
Hold on a second.
I'm sorry.
But while you're thinking about that happening, you had to exit a vehicle and get yourself up next to her vehicle and then take the swing, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
That's a lot of time, relatively speaking, isn't it?
This is Judge Simpson, cutting straight through the defendant's explanation. She says she panicked because she thought the car was going in reverse toward her partner. But the judge is testing that story against time and movement. To punch someone through a car window, she had to exit her vehicle, move toward the other car, get next to the window, and swing. That is not the same as an instant reflex. That is a sequence. And in court, sequence matters. Panic may explain emotion, but it does not automatically excuse action. Judge Simpson is basically saying, if you had enough time to get out and approach, then you had enough time for at least one other choice. That is a devastating point because it weakens the idea that this was purely instinctive. Fear may have started the moment, but the punch still had steps attached to it.
It didn't feel like it at the time, but yes.
Well, it's a lot of time, given what you were trying to prevent, right? All of that could have occurred within the time frame that you got out, walked up to her vehicle and hit her, correct?
Yes.
So tell me what makes me believe that you won't do this again. This is, as I read this, it's one of the most troubling things for me because it's a lot like road rage that just is occurring, sometimes inexplicably. So tell me what assure the court that you're not going to do this again.
I have never in my life been involved with any kind of violent interaction, and what I did not come from a place of anger or wanting to punish someone, but just from a place of fear. But I know now I've learned my lesson, and I will never do anything like this again, nor have I done it before. This is very uncharacteristic of me. I am not a violent person. I'm not an angry person.
Ms. Stewart, how old were your daughters?
They were 7 and 9 at the time.
Okay.
See if she can
Ms. Fenby? Miss Fenby.
Yes.
That okay may sound small, but in a courtroom, silence and short responses can be heavy. Judge Simpson has heard the defendant say this was not anger, not punishment, not who she is, and not something she has ever done before. But the judge is not simply accepting words at face value, he is processing whether those words match the conduct. That is why this section matters. Remorse is easy to say after the fact, especially when sentencing is minutes away. The harder question is whether the defendant understands the actual harm. Not just, I am sorry I am in court, but I understand what I did to that mother and her children. Viewers, be honest. When someone says they acted out of fear, but the action required getting out of a car and walking up to someone's window, does that explanation fully satisfy you? Judge Simpson clearly is not done testing it.
When you hear Miss Stewart not so much talk about herself, but about the effects it had on her daughter, what comes to your mind?
I feel horrible. My heart breaks, and I'm so sorry for the impact that this made. I never wanted anything like this to happen, and I am so sorry.
But what do you think about when you hear a mother talk about what her daughters are thinking?
I feel very bad. I feel very remorseful, and it honestly breaks my heart. I would never want to have that impact on anyone, especially children, and I am so sorry.
All right. Ms. Stewart, let me tell you this. A couple of things. I don't believe that imposing jail at this point is the thing to do. Because I don't think, as I listen to you, I don't think that that's necessarily what you really want to have happen. Sounds to me.
Here is where Judge Simpson starts reframing the entire hearing. He tells Karma he does not believe jail is necessarily what she truly wants. That is a bold move, because she directly asked for some jail time earlier, even 3 days, 1 week, 2 months, something. But the judge is listening beneath the request. He seems to believe the real issue is not the punch alone. It is what her daughters saw, what they now believe about justice, and what lesson they carry into the world. That is a very different sentencing lens. Instead of asking, how do we hurt the defendant back, he is asking, what teaches the right lesson? This does not erase Karma's pain, but it does challenge the idea that jail is the only way to honor it. And this is where the courtroom drama becomes less about punishment and more about moral leadership.
And maybe I'm wrong, and feel free to correct me. But I think what you care about more than anything in the world is not even the punch, not even any of that, but what your daughters think and what they think now going forth in the world. I think that's primary to you in everything. As I'm listening to you, I'm trying to decipher what you're telling me, and that's what I'm getting from it. Okay. And I'll just say, as a parent, I hear you, right? Tough enough out there without stuff that's happening. But also, I have to say that as I read the report and everything, I have to commend you. Because what you could have done is to step from that vehicle, cause a confrontation that could have gone anywhere, And a lot of bad things could happen, right? But what you did is you got your family out of the way, went down, and you reported. Quite frankly, I don't think there's a greater lesson that you could have imposed upon your daughter or given your daughters as to, in certain events, how to handle that type of situation. Because you could have taught them something very different. And so, like I said, I have to say, when I look at this, I commend you. I've been sitting here a long time and I see these incidents, something like this, and they just escalate into things that we can't even imagine that it even started the way that it did, and then it turns into whatever.
This is one of the strongest moments in the hearing. Judge Simpson commends Karma not because she was attacked, but because of what she did not do afterward. She could have escalated. She could have stepped out. She could have turned that Starbucks line into a full confrontation, especially after being punched in front of her daughters. Instead, she controlled herself, protected her family, left, and reported it. That restraint matters. The judge is telling her that the lesson she gave her daughters may be more powerful than the punishment she once imposed. That is a major emotional pivot. Karma sees probation and thinks her daughters may learn that assault has weak consequences. Judge Simpson sees her restraint and says her daughters already witnessed something valuable: how to survive humiliation without becoming the chaos yourself. That is not soft. That is difficult, and the judge knows it.
Okay. But I also don't think that jail time is it.
I would like to
Because
say,
I don't.
I did
Go ahead.
explain. I did explain to my daughters what. So me, of my request is requests from my daughters, and then me explaining what the possibility of what the sentencing would be, and I did talk to them about what probation was offering. And as my daughters, who is now 14 and 12, from the words of their mouths, they said, "That's it. That's all she would get."
No, I understand.
So I'm just saying it. And so, yes, I am here fighting for what my daughters would want, or what the words they said to me. So I know how things are, but in their head and what they interpret and what they see, and what they saw and what I think they think what they feel the law or what bad people do, or think what's supposed to do, I think that they won't get it. They won't get it. They won't understand.
They may. They may. I think the kids are a whole lot.
As they get older, over time. But I think, I just think as two young African American girls who see a Caucasian woman assault a Black woman, they see what they are seeing in this world. And they said, "That's it. Is that it?" So I'm here because I am fighting for them. I am fighting for them. What they think should
I understand that. But ma'am, let me just tell you this.
Yeah.
And since you broke it down and brought it up, I was raised by a Black woman. I understand, and I understand how I'd feel if that was my mother being hit. But I also understand what our sense of justice is, and what really has to happen. And quite frankly, despite what they may want, as parents raising kids in this world, we don't teach them about what the ultimate thing may be.
This is where Judge Simpson directly addresses the racial and parental weight Karma brings into the room. She explains that her daughters saw a Caucasian woman assault a Black woman and asked, essentially, "That's it?" That is not a small concern. That is a mother worried her children are learning the world does not protect them equally. Judge Simpson does not brush that aside. He says he was raised by a Black woman, and he understands how he would feel if it were his mother being hit. But then he pivots to the harder message. A parent's job is not always to teach children the punishment they want, but the right thing even when the world feels unfair. That is a delicate line. Is it satisfying? Maybe not. Is it legally important? Absolutely. The judge is trying to separate justice from revenge without pretending the pain is imaginary.
But we teach them about what the right thing is. And sometimes what we have to do, despite all of the other things that are going on out there in the world, we have to have them understand what may be true justice. Just because something else is happening to somebody else or something is happening in a particular way, that doesn't mean doing X on this end is the right thing. Because I think that way, quite frankly, that's how our kids get in a lot of trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's going to take moms like you, like my mom, like all of those moms out there to teach kids that there's a different way, despite what their reaction may be. So I understand what they say. I get it, because I know how I'd feel if it was my mom that was hit. Okay? I don't know that it would have turned out that way. I could see me and my brother coming out of that back seat. I don't know. All right? That's if we could beat my sisters out of there. So I get it. But I think they need to be shown that there's also a better way. And that certain things aren't going to happen the way that they want. I will just say also, in a moment of levity, having raised a daughter and also having my niece, that while I appreciate their thought process in it, I don't know that I'm going to be taking sentencing advice from 14-year-olds. I just, they have their own way of thinking about the world. I mean, I appreciate their view, but no, we let them run the world. We're all going to be in trouble. But anyway, all right. So here's what I'm going to do, though. And Ms. Polera, I'm going to increase the probationary term. So I'm going to order one other thing. Instead of the 12 months probation, I'm going to send it be placed 24 months probation. She has to pay the $555 fines and court costs. Her probationary fees will likewise concomitantly go up to $720 probation oversight fees. There is to be no use of alcohol, recreational marijuana, or any illegal drug. You'll be subject to random testing as directed by probation. You are to complete an anger management class within 60 days. I will order that you're to continue your current mental health services at Packard Health, follow all recommended aftercare, including therapy and medication protocol. There is to be no contact with Karma Stewart or her family, directly or indirectly. Do you understand that, ma'am?
Yes, Your Honor.
There's to be no assaultive, threatening, intimidating behavior on your part. You are not to possess any weapons, firearms, ammunition, or anything fashioned to be a weapon. I will order 93 days in jail. I will suspend that jail. I'm going to add a term other than the increase in probationary time and the like. And that is, well, let me put it this way. You know, it's easy to use words, Miss Envy. And it's easy to say those words, remorse. It's easy to say those words after it's all over, I'm sorry. But one always has to wonder whether or not you mean it. I realize when people get before me, they say that all the time. And I have to sort out whether or not they really mean it. So, Ms. Polera.
Now Judge Simpson targets the word everyone uses in court, remorse. He knows defendants say, I'm sorry, all the time when sentencing is near. The question is whether the apology is real, specific, and tied to the harm, or whether it is just a survival phrase. That is why this is sharper than it looks. The judge is not simply accepting the defendant's apology. He is saying, in effect, I hear the words, but I need proof of understanding. This is where accountability becomes more than standing there and sounding regretful. If you traumatized a mother and children, then remorse has to grapple with that damage directly. It cannot be vague. It cannot be polished. It cannot just be, "I apologize for taking the court's time." Judge Simpson wants to see whether she can actually write something that reflects the harm she caused.
And you know, the other thing, Ms. Benry, I'll just say this. You're telling me that you understand it and that you feel bad about it.
Bad doesn't really cover it.
You sound, okay, well, you sound like an articulate person to me. So I'm going to reserve the court's right and jurisdiction to impose jail term during this probationary term. But here's what you're going to do. You're going to write 2 letters of apology. The first letter of apology is going to be to Miss Stewart. And I'm going to see whether or not you truly are remorseful. That letter of apology is to be given to probation. I don't want you to have any contact with Miss Stewart. And so that's the first letter.
Okay.
You understand that?
I do. I wrote it down. Yes.
And I will be, Ms. Wendy, say that you understand. I'll be reviewing those letters. So I'm going to be the one to see if there's remorse there. So you're going to write that to Miss Stewart. But then the other thing you're going to do, and in a separate letter, because I think that there are separate issues that if you were really hearing what Miss Stewart said and not just giving lip service to it, and you don't need their names. I don't want you to have their names. They're minors. You're going to write a letter of apology to the daughters. And I would suggest to you that in that letter, that you deal and grapple, maybe to the extent you understand, with what Ms. Stewart said about how it would feel to see that happen to your mother.
This apology letter order is more powerful than it sounds. Judge Simpson is not ordering a casual, "sorry this happened" note. He is ordering 2 separate letters, one to Karma Stewart and another to her daughters, without direct contact and with the court reviewing them. That means the defendant cannot just perform remorse privately and move on. She has to put it into words, submit it through probation, and let the judge decide whether it shows genuine understanding. And the daughter letter is especially important. The judge wants her to confront what it means for children to watch their mother get assaulted and then carry that fear, anger, and confusion for years. This is not jail, but it is accountability aimed at emotional truth. The court is forcing the defendant to look directly at the human consequences, not just the legal charge.
Because see, I don't consider myself a violent person, but I know what me and my siblings would have done. I can just tell you. Because that would have been just a mess at Starbucks if it were my family. And that's why I give Ms. Stewart all the credit in the world. But I want to see those, and then I will make a determination as to whether or not I will impose any jail time on the 93 that I've suspended. Everybody understand that?
I so appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, folks. Those letters will be due to the court within 30 days, Ms. Blair. Okay?
Yes, I noted it, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Stewart. Thank you, Ms. Wendy. Have a good day.
Thank you.
So here is the final ruling. Judge Simpson does not impose immediate jail time, despite Karma Stewart asking for some form of jail. Instead, he increases the probationary term to 24 months, orders fines and court costs, raises probation oversight fees, bans alcohol, recreational marijuana, illegal drugs, weapons, firearms, ammunition, and any threatening or assaultive behavior. He orders anger management within 60 days, continued mental health services, no contact with Karma Stewart or her family, and suspends 93 days in jail while reserving the right to impose jail during probation. Most importantly, he orders 2 apology letters, one to Karma, one to her daughters, and he personally reserves the right to review them for real remorse. The takeaway is clear. Restraint mattered, remorse had to be proven, and Judge Simpson chose structured accountability over immediate incarceration. If you found this case as shocking as we did, make sure to hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more jaw-dropping courtroom breakdowns.